In this strange hobby of ours, collecting swords, reenacting a long-forgotten past, studying martial arts treatises 700 years after ink from the author's quill is dried, it's easy to imagine the general public's interest in medieval-related activities forever confined to popular books and movies and games. Let's face it, the community of the sword is a relatively small and peculiar niche. You can't exactly walk into your nearest Walmart superstore and select various pieces of armor from the shelves. Admittedly, the components that make up your medieval kit tend not to be typical consumer goods, but issues related to product availability, varying degrees of craftsmanship or the lack thereof, prohibitively high prices due to low production outputs, as well as wait time frequently dishearten the would-be consumer and medieval enthusiast. Getting a kit together that makes you happy can be a frustrating process. For example, you have historical accuracy on the one hand and price on the other. It's a balancing act. But accuracy and price aren't the only considerations. Personally, my first questions are, how quickly can I get my hands on the thing? Is the product made only in Europe, Italy, somewhere else? And then I begin to wonder if I should design, sew, carve, fabricate, stitch, or otherwise build the thing myself. There are, however, some pieces of kit that I doubt I'll ever master, and I don't plan to attempt to craft in front of the camera anytime soon. For instance, the sword. I simply don't have the skill, and I don't have the time necessary to acquire a high degree of competency. So, like most everyone else, I buy my swords. In much the same way, when it comes to mail, there are few alternatives, if any, to purchasing. While you can go to the trouble to construct mail for yourself, either a hauberk or a mail shirt, possibly with integrated mittens and a coif, it's neither time nor cost effective, unfortunately. Thousands upon thousands of rings have to be flattened, punched, linked, and riveted or pinned. You can do it if you're fortunate enough to have vast amounts of time on your hands, but if you're like me, you'll probably end up buying instead. So to assist you in comparison shopping, if you happen to be in the market for mail, I've created a list of reputable vendors. As of the date of this upload, they're currently doing business, and I hope it's going to help you in understanding what's available and where to get it. Okay, so first things first, I want to talk about price versus accuracy again. I mentioned that before, and that's always something that you've got to deal with. Modern mail is not really all that like historical mail. And what I mean by that is, number one, the materials aren't exactly the same unless you're willing to pay a very high price, generally. Because most modern mails, if you're looking for accuracy, what you're probably going to end up with is mild steel. It looks correct, it looks very accurate, but in fact most mail was made out of wrought iron. Why isn't wrought iron something that's available today? The reason it's not available is because it's more expensive to make, and it's really not as good as mild steel, which is a modern metal. One of the ways that wrought iron is different from mild steel is the way that it rusts. When it rusts, you'll see wrought iron appear to break down in a different way. It's not a uniform patina that covers the surface the way that mild steel will rust, but instead there are like a grain-like pattern that becomes evident. If you did a side-by-side comparison of historical mail to modern mails, you'd notice some other differences as well. For instance, holes were drifted rather than, in most cases, mechanically punched these days. Another difference would be the thickness of the rings. In the past, the rings were much thicker, and nowadays, most of the rings that you're going to be able to acquire are extremely thin. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing for the Reenactor because it makes it lighter, but they're probably not as strong, and they're also so thin, it's just not really that realistic. But from far away, if you're not looking at it very, very close, it looks perfectly fine. If you're able to afford something that's a little bit better, I'll tell you where you might be able to find that. One of the reasons I'm making this video is that since I did a video a while back, it was almost a year ago, looking at a mail shirt, which was basically like costume mail, I felt like at some point I would want to update that. I've acquired a little bit of mail since then. I've got flat rings, mild steel, dome riveted, and wedge riveted. And there's so many different types. There's so much available, so much out there. Really what I want to do is just point you to the vendors, and then you can make your own decisions from there. The first vendor I'd have to talk about is Cult of Athena. So this is like an aggregate. They will sell other people's work. Cult of Athena doesn't make their own mail or anything as far as I'm aware. they will just sell other people's things. It's just like a distributor, essentially. Much of the mail that you're going to find is going to come from India. For whatever reason, in the last 20 years or so, so much mail has come out of India, and it's not a bad thing. Often you're going to find alternating riveted and plain rings, or essentially these would be like washers, which it's okay. It makes it a very strong mail armor. Because of the techniques that they're using, it makes the mail fairly affordable. There's a great selection on Cult of Athena, and really that's the reason I want to bring it up first. And all the links are going to be down in the description for these companies. Anytime you're buying something and there's basically only 3 sizes, there's a good chance it's not going to fit perfectly. So the next company I want to tell you about is Custom Chainmail. And their whole thing is that the chainmail should fit you. And so it's more tailored to your size. And because of that, it might cost more, but I really think you should check out this company. I think this one is really doing a great job of creating things that work for us. Another one that's really popular is Battle Merchant. I've never ordered from Battle Merchant before, but I've heard good things about this company. I believe they're located in the UK. You may want to check them out. The last one I want to tell you about is the one that I was most excited to stumble upon online. It's Eric Schmidt's website. He's creating mail that is as accurate as possible. It's really well researched, and because of that, what you're going to get is something special. There's a lot of great information on Eric's website. You can really tell that he puts just so much effort into trying to be as accurate as possible, and that's really important to me, and it might be important to you as well. If you're looking for something as close as possible to the real thing, I'd check out Eric's website. It's just really amazing. If you have purchased from any of these vendors, I would love to hear how that experience went and if the quality met your expectations. So leave a comment if you'd like to. So thanks for watching today, guys. I'll talk to y'all later.